Hey, I'm Tom Cole, president of DevCore Strategic Advisors, located here in Kansas City, just outside Kansas City, actually. It is a beautiful day here in the Midwest. It's the quintessential fall weather. The sun is shining, the leaves are falling. In fact, I went outside earlier and I could smell the leaves burning of a neighbor somewhere around the way. So it absolutely is very Norman Rockwell today in Kansas City. It is also election day throughout the United States. So be sure, hopefully you've gone and voted, done your civic duty, and regardless of whether or not your preferred candidate wins or loses, I hope you're not out doing anything ridiculous this evening. Anyway, I created this YouTube channel really on the premise of one major thing. I was surfing the net and social media and whatnot, looking for great resources for normal or legit conversations about economic development. And frankly, everything that I found put my feet to sleep. It was all highly academic or highly irrelevant to much of what many of full-time economic development practitioners really encounter on a day-to-day basis. So basically, it bored the hell out of me, and I said, you know what, let's try something else. So this is episode one of a yet-to-be-named YouTube channel. A friend of mine in economic development, suggested that I name it Sexonomic Development to simply show that there's some humor and some spice in ED, economic development. Or perhaps simply the Great Generic Economic Development YouTube channel. Regardless, this is going to be an economic development discussion for economic development practitioners and any elected officials who care to chime in and listen to us as well, so they can kind of see what goes on our side of the fence. A little bit about DevCore Strategic Advisors. This isn't a commercial, and this is probably the last time I'm going to talk about it, so give me 20 seconds here. But DevCore basically is a consulting agency that I put together some time ago. And DevCore really provides anything across the realm of strategic planning to business attraction strategies, business retention strategies, entrepreneurship strategies, and we also assist in developing workforce or affordable housing for your community. And again, if you bring in that big, giant tech company or manufacturer or office user or whatnot, those folks need a place to stay. And oftentimes communities skip over that facet of economic development of where are they going to live and do they care about where they live? And the answer should unequivocally be yes. So again, that's all I'm going to say about DevCore. Because this is more about the show and the content and talking to other economic developers around North America than it is about a commercial for us. And frankly, we just don't want to do that. But the show really, like I said, I looked around, suffered through many podcasts, many YouTube videos, and simply wasn't finding what I was looking for, which is economic development practitioners talking to and with economic development practitioners. So that's what this show is really going to be about. Not today's episode, however, because this is really more of a simple intro of what you're in for. And hopefully, the folks who do tune into this do walk out of here with some sort of value added to their careers and their lives. Whether that be 2 viewers, which is highly possible, or 2,000 viewers, which would be amazing. But regardless, we're here to talk about real-world economic development challenges and what folks are doing in their own communities and whatnot. So this is not going to be a stuffed shirt presentation. This is going to be, as I said, real people talking about real things in real language that everybody can easily understand. There will be personality and humor and fun and interjected into this. I've got guests lined up from all over North America right now, Arizona, California, Colorado, Florida, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Texas, Missouri, Kansas, and I'm sure some other places, as well as a couple of provinces, New Mexico, and some provinces in Canada as well. So we're going to get a wide swath of what practitioners are doing throughout North America, which I think is going to be a lot of fun. We'll also, over the course of a number of episodes, talk about some strategies to pass the dreaded CEcD exam. I earned my CEcD back in 2001. I think at the time I may have been the youngest person to ever pass the test, but I was recently unseated from that a couple of years ago by a fantastic gentleman in the Miami area, and he's become a great friend and love him to death. But the CEcD exam, don't stress about it. There's a lot of folklore about how difficult the test is and whatnot. And yes, it is. But we'll present some study techniques that will get you through it. And it's really not that difficult. It's just a matter of how you study and what you study. And hopefully we contribute to adding more CEcDs to the array of CEcDs throughout the world. We'll also have carte blanche to talk about anything that we really want to talk about on this show. So 90+% of the content will be about economic development, but I can't promise that there aren't going to be some rabbit trails that go down in popular culture or things that are just happen to be in the news. So really what we want to talk about today, and again, this is going to be a very short video because this is simply introduction to whatever we ultimately call this YouTube channel. But back in February, I attended the International Economic Development Council Leadership Summit in Tampa, Florida. It was a great conference. I actually got a client out of the deal. It's always great to see my colleagues from around the world at these conferences and kind of catch up with them and see what's going on and what they're doing in their communities that might be different than what I've experienced with some of my clients. But again, as that conference was going on, the whole notion of COVID-19 was starting to bubble up. It was big in Italy. It was big in Europe at the time. Asia, of course. But we weren't really sure at that time, is this thing really going to make landfall in the United States, and what's going to be the impact of it? And is it going to be something that blows over quick? Is it going to be a prolonged issue? How's it going to impact our communities? Things along those lines. But I recall we were talking a little bit about it at that conference in February, but as I got on the plane to come home, it was myself and 16 other people on Southwest Airlines 737. So somewhere I've got a selfie of me with 0 passengers behind me on 2/3 of the plane. So that was kind of my first indication that something might be up with this and folks are starting to be concerned about it. And again, that was in February. Now, a month later is when it really kind of spread its wings in North America, and we started to have businesses shut down and close for at least temporarily. Again, we were going to shut down for 2 weeks to flatten the curve, and that went on for quite some time. So COVID has impacted us. It's closed many city halls, at least to the public. It has closed many businesses, at least to the public. It's closed many businesses permanently. A lot of small businesses simply could not deal with a couple of weeks, let alone several months of closure regarding cash flows and how that can decimate a small business, especially if they've recently started a startup business. Simply, really didn't have much of a chance against COVID-19 and the shutdowns that came with it. So what we really want to kind of talk a little bit about today, and ultimately there's going to be a call to you to send me an email of how you and your organization have managed COVID, or what you've done as economic development practitioners during this period of COVID-19, whether we still call it quarantine or simply call it how we're dealing with the pandemic, or however you want to refer to it. But in essence, from late March through June and beyond to today, now it's November 3rd, what have you been doing as an economic development practitioner? Because you're not getting any walk-in traffic, and when I say that, I'm primarily talking to those in municipal government who operate economic development divisions or whatnot. We have, and if you've done that, or if you're in that boat, you do have walk-in traffic. You have folks who walk in and just say, "Hey, I'm thinking about doing this, or I want to do this. How can I get there, and how can the city help me get there?" But other economic development agencies as well, those public-private partnerships that typically go out and do recruitment missions or retention missions or entrepreneurship assistance, what have you been doing? Because a lot of the times, a lot of the folks that we typically talk to had shut down as well. So I want to hear what you've been doing during this pandemic. Some economic development practitioners have been really working closely with the healthcare field of how can they provide better logistics or resources or whatnot to help them do what they do to assist the folks that have been struggling with COVID-19 and those businesses that have been struggling to assist those organizations with COVID-19 and whatnot. But most of us have not. Most of us have not been in the healthcare field providing that assistance. So again, the question is, what have we been doing? What have you been doing? How'd you spend your 2020, basically? Economic developers, we all get busy, and most of us have operated out of particularly small shops where, the economic development team is less than 3 or 4 people. And in those instances, again, the big question is going to be, what have you been doing? And when we have those small shops, oftentimes things tend to stack up and we create a rainy day list. Well, in the rainy day, when things slow down, we're going to do our next strategic plan. We're going to update the website. We're going to hone our business attraction or BRE programs or whatnot. So have you used this time, or are you going to update the website, if I didn't mention that a second ago? That's a notorious thing that economic developers tend to kind of leave behind because we get busy doing other stuff. And particularly in a small shop, you don't have a lot of time for that. So during this quote unquote downtime, what have you done? Did you put together any type of uh, Zoom forums where you could talk to business sectors or folks out in the industry, general industry, finding out how they're reacting to it, what assistance they need from an economic development organization such as yours? Um, and here's something that I've really noticed throughout the entire pandemic is a lack of economic development practitioners in the local media or even the national media, but we'll just talk about local media. Here in Kansas City, I'm yet to see a single economic development practitioner on the news talking about what this is doing to their economy. Now, we hear from elected officials, we hear from political heads who do analysis of these things, but why aren't you on the news? Why aren't you sending out media releases, saying this is what we're seeing and getting out in front of the population to let them know what you're doing, that you exist? And quite frankly, it's all of our jobs as economic development practitioners to have a consistent, steady pulse of what our markets are doing and what this is and how this is impacting them. So I'd encourage you right now, stop whatever you're doing, put together a news release of what you've experienced, what you've seen throughout the pandemic, and get it out to your media outlets. Because there's absolutely no reason for economic developers who are supposed to be on the cusp of all new knowledge relative to the economy and your local economy and your business structures. There's no reason for you not to be in front of the world talking about that, because you are the most knowledgeable on what it's doing to business, because you have the pulse of those folks and those businesses. You need to be out in front. For that matter, I'm yet to see anybody on the national news talking to a true economic developer or an economic development organization. We typically go to the highest rungs of government to listen to what's going on with the pandemic. But frankly, the folks that are at the ultra high level of government are only getting their information bits and pieces from those who are actually out on the street doing the work. So you need to be out there. You need to be presenting your case, presenting what your findings are in your community to your local media so that they know precisely what's going on. This is your time to shine and your time to show your expertise of what you do. And this isn't to be taken in a CYA, cover your ass type perspective, but go out and show your value, show what you know and how you know it and what your solutions are and what it's doing to your community. This is your role. Get out there and do it. While COVID has been a curse, it's also provided a bit of a blessing to provide this downtime to where we can catch up on some of these things that we've put off for those rainy days. So I hope you've been doing it. Economic development practitioners, we are connectors. And kind of going with what I've been saying the past couple of minutes, we are connectors. We sit squarely in that intersection of public policy and free enterprise. So in theory, as an economic development practitioner, you should know what's going on both sides of that equation. You should know what's going on in your market. You should know what's going on in your government and how the two can work together to solve some issues that happen to be out in your community. It also appears that, here we are in in election season. The election is today, as I mentioned, that COVID is beginning to rear its head yet again with more and more cases presenting themselves each day. One need not look further than any media outlet, because that's all they're talking about. They're talking about the presidential election. They're talking about COVID, and that's it. Thankfully, that's drowned out some of this crap about the Kardashians and whoever else is in popular culture for unknown reasons. But that's all that the news is talking about. So if you still have time to catch up on all those rainy day items and to perfect your organization, to really solidify, gird your infrastructure to make your organization better, because we're probably, I hate looking into this crystal ball, but it's probably not too far-fetched that we may be headed toward another shutdown of sorts as these numbers continue to increase over the next few weeks. So again, this is time for your EDO to get its proverbial shit together and really perfect itself and get rolling and prepare for the future. But again, as I mentioned, this is a very short first episode. The next episode we'll have a guest or two. We'll talk about some things, more than likely coming back to the COVID conversation, but we'll have a couple of guests and we'll talk about these things. But really, I want to hear from you as to what's going on in your community. What have you done over this pandemic period. And I'd love you to send me an email, tom@devcoreadvisors.com. And we'll go through those and we'll kind of see what folks are doing. We'll talk about them perhaps on the next episode. But again, this YouTube channel is your YouTube channel. We want to talk about what's important to you, what's important to practicing economic developers. And we want to be able to provide some assistance and shed some light on some great ideas that happen to be out there, as well as some trends, emerging markets, strategies to strengthen your EDO, to strengthen your economic development skills and the performance of your organization or community. And it's going to be free-spirited and it's going to be fun. So again, I'm Tom Cole with DevCore Advisors on the yet-to-be-named Economic Development YouTube channel. I just want to thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to have fun. We're going to have amazing guests. And I just look forward to bringing you the next episode. Thank you.